Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into Keith Lawson's DCI Harry Morgan's Casebook. We got some key excerpts here, and our mission is really to trace the narrative arc, how Lawson builds this detective's world, only to sort of pull the rug out from under him.
Exactly. We're following DCI Harry Morgan. He starts off, pretty standard setup, runs a team down in Bournemouth, the seaside town. But we're going to track three key cases that really escalate things for him. They shift his focus, push him into different kinds of crime, and all of this builds towards something really personal, something that forces him to look at his own life completely differently.
So that's our mission then. Follow that. These professional wins seem to lead weirdly to a kind of personal crisis. It feels like an unusual way to structure a detective story. Often the detective is the rock, the constant. But here, Morgan himself seems to be the one changing the most.
And that instability, it kicks off right away, which I think is, well, a pretty smart narrative choice by Lawson. Most police procedurals ease you in, maybe a familiar crime type. Harry Morgan's first case. It throws the rule book out from page 1.
The story drops us right into Bournemouth, the murder of a prostitute. The setting feels grounded, specific. But the source material tells us straight up that the factors involved are out of the ordinary. We should probably pause on that phrase, because it's not just hinting at a tricky case. It feels like the author is setting the tone for the entire series right there. Okay, let's unpack this.
It's the first sign that Harry Morgan's world isn't strictly governed by normal police work and logic. The investigation quickly goes from standard procedure into something, well, bizarre. Because the killer, who's running a drug empire, turns out to be using voodoo to control his operation.
Right. That detail, voodoo. Why voodoo? It just completely sidelines the usual ideas about physical evidence, rational motives. It brings in this almost supernatural fear, this weird control mechanism. It's destabilizing, like you said. He's not just up against a drug lord. He's facing someone operating way outside normal reasoning.
And that immediately ramps up the stakes, not just for the case itself, but for how we see DCI Morgan. The source notes say this strange investigation puts Harry and one of his own detectives directly in harm's way. So they're facing a threat that's, you could argue, psychological, maybe even spiritual, as much as physical. Harry has to show he can handle something where the standard police manual just doesn't apply.
It definitely sets a benchmark, doesn't it? That he's the kind of detective who can operate in these extreme, unexpected situations. You're right, it's a really effective way to establish his capabilities early on. But while all this is happening, this sort of occult investigation, there's someone introduced almost quietly in the background. He meets a woman named Sangeeta.
Sangeeta. She's like the first narrative pin stuck in the map. She enters his professional life right when it's at its most chaotic, but she's this thread, a thread that, maybe subtly at first, connects the start of his journey to what comes later. You meet tons of people on the job, right? But Lawson makes sure we notice her.
Okay, so he cracks this case involving a voodoo-practicing drug lord. What's the reward? Head of major crimes in London? Something like that. But nope. Lawson yanks the rug out again.
Exactly. The success from Case 1 is so significant, so immediate, that the story doesn't give Harry a moment to breathe. He's instantly ordered to run a new task force. Serious crime. It's not just a well done, it's a huge jump, almost overnight, and a total shift in what he's supposed to be an expert in. It tells you that the higher up see his main skill as handling complexity, high-stakes stuff, whatever the actual crime is.
So he goes from this gritty, almost supernatural local crime in Bournemouth to what? Cold, calculated, high-end theft.
Pretty much. His second big assignment is digging into a series of high-end burglaries. And the location shift matters just as much as the crime type shift. Now we're in Sandbanks and Canford Cliffs. Super wealthy, exclusive areas. It's a very deliberate change. It shows Harry's now operating in the world of the financial elite, maybe victims, maybe something else. This kind of investigation demands meticulous work, logistics, forensics, totally different from the gut feeling needed for the voodoo case.
It must feel completely different, like going from chasing shadows to, I don't know, analyzing alarm systems and insurance claims. But if Lawson wants to keep that tension going, that feeling from Case 1 that nothing is ever simple, how does he make property crime just as gripping?
By making it just as destabilizing in its own way. The source material stresses that this burglary case, even though it looks professional, logistical, it proves more complex than it first seemed. So even in this world of wealth and apparent logic, Harry gets hit with an unavoidable surprise. Something throws a wrench in the works.
So the author just won't let him settle. You'd imagine after dealing with voodoo, burglaries might feel a bit routine. But the story keeps that core element, the unexpected, front and center for Harry. He's constantly having to adapt, whether the weirdness is occult or financial.
And this is where you see Lawson really building that theme of pressure, of escalation. Case 1 shook his understanding of crime itself, maybe. Case 2 shakes his reliance on just logic and procedure. He can't just solve it by adding up the value of the stolen goods. There's a twist, something unseen. It forces him to keep using those lateral thinking skills he probably sharpened chasing down that voodoo guy.
Okay, so this task force role starts to define his career path, his success. And then the narrative does something really smart structurally. It ties the end right back to the beginning, doesn't it? We move to the third major case, the murder of a financial expert.
Yes, it's the big convergence. And it pulls his professional trajectory together with that thread from his past. Harry's sent to investigate this murder. It looks like a targeted hit, professional setting, but the company.
It's not just any company. It's the exact place where Sangeeta works, the woman from case 1, the voodoo case. Here's where it gets really interesting. The loop closes. Or maybe it tightens.
It tightens. And what's brilliant is how Lawson uses her character. Sangeeta isn't just someone Harry bumped into years ago in Bournemouth. Now she's embedded in his current high-stakes financial world investigation. It strongly suggests that even as Harry climbs the ladder professionally, he can't escape his origins. His past isn't just past, it's actively influencing his present case.
So the pattern is sort of, first, deal with a literal unknown, like voodoo, then deal with an unknown hidden inside a logical system, the burglary surprise. And finally, deal with a deeply personal unknown that links directly back to where he started Sangeeta, right there at the new crime scene.
Absolutely. The external crimes are almost like the frame, the scaffolding. Now we really need to shift focus, look inside that frame, because running alongside all this professional stuff, the voodoo, the posh burglaries, the financial murder, there's Harry's own internal journey, his own deep dive.
The source material is pretty clear about this, isn't it? It's not just about job stress. He's actively making this huge personal discovery at the same time. It's like the ultimate cold case he has to solve himself.
Right. He discovers truths about himself and his past. And that phrasing, it suggests something buried, something he didn't know, something that needs investigating, maybe just as much as his official cases. And the outcome of finding these truths, it's massive. It turns his world upside down.
That feels like the real payoff for all that instability we've seen him go through professionally. Lawson spends 2 cases getting Harry ready for the biggest surprise imaginable, and then the biggest one hits him where he lives, basically. It's about his own identity.
It's a really well-crafted arc, isn't it? Professional success leading to personal breakdown, almost.
Yeah, the story of Harry Morgan seems to be about how a detective's skill in uncovering secrets ultimately leads him to uncover his own devastating ones. Which leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty big question to think about as you follow Harry's journey. In this high-stakes world of crime solving, where you need to be impartial, clear-headed, can a detective really stay effective? Can they do the job when the biggest, most world-shattering truth they uncover about how crime works or why things happen is actually about themselves? Where does that line between the investigator and the investigation even sit anymore?
That's a powerful question. It really sets the stakes for the whole series, I think.
That's our deep dive for today into DCI Harry Morgan's world. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.